All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're exploring a real masterclass on human connection by looking at Jim Rohn's 9 timeless tips for effective communication. Now, here's the thing we often forget. True connection isn't just some mystical talent you're either born with or you're not. It's actually a very intentional, structured journey. Literally, every word you say, every gesture you make, and every single moment you spend listening is an opportunity. So let's break down exactly how we can transform our everyday exchanges into really profound connections.
To make these 9 distinct tips truly actionable for you today, we're going to group them into 4 core phases: the power of silence, crafting a clear message, deepening the connection, and building lasting trust.
Phase 1. The power of silence. It might sound incredibly ironic, but great communication actually begins with what you do not say. I mean, most of us completely fall into the trap of listening to respond. You know exactly what I mean, right? Picture that colleague who nods super fast while you speak, literally just waiting for a fraction of a second of dead air so they can jump in with their own point. They're physically quiet, sure, but mentally, they are just forming their next sentence. The real magic, that powerful shift, happens when we listen to understand. You are fully present. You're focusing on the deeper meaning behind their words. You aren't just acting as a pause between speaking. You are actively engaged. So how do we actually pull this off in real life? Let's break the strategy of listening with intention into 3 really straightforward steps. First, do something that is honestly incredibly rare today. Eliminate distractions. Seriously, put the phone out of sight. Give them your absolute, undivided attention. Step 2 is to observe their nonverbal cues. Are they hesitating? Are they getting excited? And step 3, reflect and paraphrase. When they finally finish speaking, just take a brief moment to reflect their words back to them. It proves you truly understand, and this simple 3-step structure makes the other person feel incredibly valued.
Jim Rohn noted, "You can't just scatter seeds without giving them a moment to settle in the soil." I absolutely love this metaphor. It perfectly introduces our second tip, which is a deeply underutilized tool in our communication toolkit: the pause.
The pause is exactly that settling moment. So many of us are totally terrified of silence in a conversation, right? We think it makes things awkward or makes us look unsure, but rushing actually leads to so many misunderstandings. After you make a key point, literally just count to 2 or 3 in your head. That's it. It gives your words room to breathe and subconsciously tells your listener, hey, this is important, pay attention. And remember, even in those silent 2-second pauses, you are still communicating. Your body language speaks way louder than your words ever could. An open posture, like keeping your arms uncrossed, instantly conveys that you're receptive. Steady, natural eye contact builds trust. And subtle mirroring, just gently reflecting the other person's posture, can instantly create this invisible sense of sync and connection. You really want to make sure your nonverbals are perfectly aligned with the exact message you're trying to send.
Phase 2, crafting a clear message.
Okay, so now that we have our silent foundation built, we really need to focus on structure. Rohn's rule of simplicity is a lifesaver here. Complexity is the enemy of clarity. Think about it. If you try to cram 5 different messages into a single conversation, you just dilute your main point. Distill your message to its absolute essence and stick to one clear takeaway. Say exactly what needs to be said and nothing more. Brevity is what prevents you from losing your audience in a sea of unnecessary details.
But simplicity isn't just a one-size-fits-all approach. You absolutely must tailor your message. For example, if your audience values efficiency, say you're talking to a highly driven project manager, you need to focus your message on solutions and concrete results. Get to the point. But if you're speaking to someone who deeply values connection, you want to pivot your approach entirely. Emphasize relationships, talk about shared goals. Adapting to their unique communication style isn't being fake, it's simply meeting people exactly where they are. And this brings us to a really fascinating concept called framing. Framing is all about structuring your words, ideas, and concepts in a way that perfectly resonates with your audience's unique lens and values. Now, I want to be super clear on this. Framing is absolutely not manipulation. Not at all. It's simply setting a context that makes your ideas accessible, compelling, and relatable to the specific person sitting across from you.
Let me show you exactly how powerful this is in real time. You could approach a situation with a negative focus and say, "This is a difficult challenge." Or you could use an empowering focus and say, "This is an exciting opportunity for growth." Both sentences are describing the exact same situation, but notice how those slightly different word choices evoke drastically different emotional responses? That is the power of intentional framing.
Phase 3. Deepening the connection. So we have our message perfectly structured. Now we have to inject the humanity. And that bridge is built entirely on empathy. Empathy is simply the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person completely without judgment. Without it, your conversation is just a cold, transactional exchange of facts. But with it, it becomes a truly transformational conversation where real trust and rapport can thrive.
In everyday practice, empathy requires intense curiosity. You really have to step into their shoes. If you notice someone is overwhelmed, name that emotion. Just say, hey, it sounds like you're feeling really frustrated right now. And this is the hardest part for a lot of us. Crucially, do not rush in to offer solutions. Validate their feelings first, and only after you've done that should you move into problem-solving mode.
A fantastic, super easy way to show that empathy and deepen the dialogue is just by asking the right kinds of questions. Think about a closed question like, did you enjoy the meeting? You're just going to get a yes or no. Boom. The conversation essentially dies right there. But if you shift to an open-ended question like, what were your thoughts on the meeting? You instantly invite exploration. It gives them the runway to express themselves and proves you genuinely value their perspective.
The type of question you ask literally dictates the entire direction of the conversation. If you focus heavily on problems, the whole vibe stays negative. So, instead of asking, what went wrong, ask, what's one thing we could do to make this better? It's a tiny little shift, but it focuses on possibilities and empowers the other person, rather than pointing fingers and placing blame.
Phase 4. Building lasting trust. This is the absolute glue that holds all of our previous communication strategies together. Consistency. Here is the hard truth of the matter. Your eloquent words, those perfect 3-second pauses, your excellent framing, all of it will lose its power entirely if your actions misalign. People are always subconsciously watching to see if what you say actually matches what you do. Trust is built over time through repeated, dependable actions. You absolutely must project reliability in every single interaction.
A highly practical way to maintain that consistency is to manage expectations honestly. We all fall into the trap of just saying what people want to hear in the moment just to avoid a little awkwardness. Don't do it. Instead of making some rigid promise you might not be able to keep, just say, hey, I'll aim for tomorrow, but I might need an extra day. Setting clear, realistic boundaries like that prevents broken promises down the line and totally reinforces your long-term reliability.
Which leaves us with this final, incredibly crucial question to ask ourselves. Are your words and actions telling the exact same story? Because when you listen with intention, when you craft a clear and tailored message, when you lead with genuine empathy, and consistently back it all up with your actions, you aren't just exchanging information anymore. You are forging extraordinary, deeply meaningful connections. So I highly encourage you, take these structural tips and start applying them in the very next conversation you have today. You've got the tools. Now go out and use them.